My name is Joan Affleck and I have a skincare company called JL Formulations. I supply my skincare JL Formulations to the trade, meaning to beauty salons, to skin clinics, down to the mobile therapist, and I also retail my skincare products online on my e-commerce site. How did I do during the pandemic, personally and business-wise? During the pandemic, I personally was invited onto a WhatsApp group that was doing 21 days of abundance with Deepak Chopra. Now, Deepak Chopra is the motivational guru, and this led me on to forming my own group where I invited 20 women who I thought would really benefit from this. So Deepak Chopra being a motivational guru, we had every day for 21 days motivational quotes, some homework to do, everything to get our mindset really, really healthy and thinking in a positive, abundant way rather than lack of, which was going on at the time. I formed that at the beginning of May and we kept it going all the way through and it was great because women were engaging with it. It was fabulous because we had motivational quotes every day, and after even the 21 days had finished, women were still putting things on it. So this was invaluable to me personally for my mental health. It really was. Business wise, I really felt that I had to do something for my trade business because they were all closed for a number of months, and quite quickly I started doing online training sessions on a weekly Wednesday, 10 till 12. Every Wednesday we did online training. So we would talk about skin disorders, skin types, down to how to do virtual skin consultations, and I kept that going all the way through, and that was really a great thing to do to support my trade business. Really great thing to do. What can I do better next year? Really get better at communicating online and keeping what I'm doing just now, keeping that going, and that's my intention. People are getting used to doing this online, so also the virtual skin consultations, that really has been increasing massively, and I'm now getting people from all over messaging me to do online skin consultations, which is great. So I'm going to get better and better at that, and I'm going to really keep in contact with my trade accounts to keep them, pushing them to communicate with their clients. I have found that definitely the more I've been communicating with my trade and general public clients, the more sales came from that, for sure. What accomplishments are I'm most proud of this year? It's got to be helping my trade business hold on to their businesses. My trade accounts were really suffering, quite a number of them, from being closed, not knowing what to do, thinking that's it, lost my business. We're talking about small businesses here. And a lot of these women were even single women, single mothers, and really teaching them how to communicate with their clients online was invaluable for them, and I'm really proud of that I've definitely helped them save their businesses. Really proud of that. What impact will my learning have on my new year? This learning of being online teaching and online educating even general public has really helped me push my brand forward, and that has been a real learning curve that I didn't realise that would happen, that educating my trade accounts more, getting them to do videos online, all of that, and even chatting to customers direct to general public, it really has strengthened my brand massively, and I think I'm getting known for that now. If you need your skin consultation, go to me, come to me. So this was great. And that will, going forward, that's strengthening my brand continuously, this online education and communication. What advice would I give to businesses going forward into 2021? Adapt. Think of a way that you can help your clients, whether they're trade or their general public. Think of a way that you can help them and solve their problems. You know, just like me teaching my trade accounts how to keep their businesses going. You know, I taught them to do skin consultations online. I also told them to text every single one of their clients. And, you know, I knew their clients would still want their cleansers and their moisturizers. So let's get it to them, but let's do it in a safe way. So let's talk to the client online or use whatever means, WhatsApp or FaceTime, to chat with your client and then really get them to know that you are looking after them and that you will be no matter what. And you can still do that with trade clients and if you're doing both business to business and general public, but finding out what your client needs, what support they need, what problems they have, helping them solve their problems, doing that, and that's it. You'll be on a winner.
Hi, my name's Fiona MacNeil and I'm really delighted to be here to share a little bit about my COVID experience with you with regards to my business and what happened next. I thought it might be helpful to break up me talking with some imagery and because I come from the world of learning and development, then it just probably feels a wee bit more comfortable for me as well. So I want to share just a few images with you that might help to bring the story to life. And I begin by sharing this image with you. So this is a group of people called Fiona McNeil Associates who worked together in various configurations from October 1996 to March 2020. And I guess you'll notice that date and think, okay, I wonder what happened then. So what happened then was that in the space of 5 to 7 days, around £200,000 worth of planned business that we had on our books from March 2020 to March 2021 just disappeared. So understandably, organisations and individuals couldn't see how they were going to be able to deliver and manage learning and development interventions in a pandemic where the world was going to be shut down. So that had a massive impact on us. And I think it felt like the kind of final stop on the roller coaster, which I had shared with Businesswomen Scotland in November last year when I was asked to come in and talk about my experience of being a business owner for 30 years. So I've been self-employed since 1989 and Fiona McNeil Associates began in 1996. So the roller coaster was kind of as it is with small business and as you will understand, up and down with real high points and fantastic, amazing times and good money coming through the door and good experiences and good learning to kind of things dropping away and just having to hold tight to faith that we had something that would continue to make a difference. And I think we were really feeling that we had moved on from that 2-year period in 16-18 where we were slightly fearful about the continuation of our business to believing that with work that we had done that we were going to be good to go for another 10 years. And then of course COVID hit. So we made the decision very early on to liquidate the business. That wasn't an easy decision to come to. The business had a very lean structure, so myself and my life partner, David Gillespie, were co-directors, and Edith Campbell, our friend, was the office stroke operations manager. So in the context of making people redundant and the impact it had on others, I guess that was relatively small in comparison to some of the things I would imagine some of you have experienced. However, of course, when you're in it and it's your business and it's you that's feeling it and it's your sense of loss, it doesn't really make it any easier. And it really felt so difficult, so sad. I couldn't speak to customers on the phone. I was so heartbroken about where the decision would come to. Although having said that, we were clear from the outset it was the right decision. And we made that decision because the three of us, we talked every day for almost 2 weeks before we got to the decision. We made the decision because we didn't want to be spending the next 12 to 18 months waiting to see what would happen. So we didn't want to be in limbo. And I think that's got a lot to do with, I guess, our personality types and how we have run the business over the last 26 years. So we made the decision before furlough, we made the decision before grants, etc., etc. And I think we absolutely believe it was the right decision. And I guess then it's recognising that just because it's the right decision doesn't mean that it wasn't hugely difficult and heart-rending. Because you will know as business owners that it's not a job that you go to and come back from. It is you. It is an extension of your life. It's an extension of your personality. So how do I feel we dealt with that then and thought about that? And also what was our wider response to kind of COVID? Not so much for us personally, but more about in our community. So David and I live in a main door tenement in Pollokshields, and it's a very community focused street. We look out for each other. So immediately COVID hit, there was some of us that had been involved in a kind of action group to get speed bumps put in the road last year. We picked that up, we built on that, we got a representative in every close. We then got which then became a kind of an emergency WhatsApp group. Then we had an open WhatsApp group where anybody in the street could be part of that. And that would just be a way of sharing information, sharing happy stuff that was emerging, asking for help with children, with provisions when people were self-isolating, etc. So the response, I guess, was twofold. It was the response to the ending of Fiona MacNeil Associates, and very much in that space for all of us, that overwhelming sense of loss and kind of saying goodbye to something that had been an inherent part of your life for 26 years. And kind of how do you let that go? And also, I think to be fair to us, I think we really acknowledged that whilst what we were going through was really difficult, it wasn't a patch on what other people were having to do. I can remember David saying to me that writing the redundancy letter for myself and for Edith was one of the hardest things he's ever had to do in his career. This is a guy who was a senior manager with a global responsibility at Rolls-Royce, somebody who's worked in the NHS and other challenging public sector environments. Absolutely, there was a massive sense of loss. And I think the fact that we together had made the decision, so whilst Edith was not an owner or a shareholder in the business, we always saw her as our thinking equal. So we made that decision together, and we were collectively 100% agreed it was the right thing to do. So I guess there's a lot of acknowledgement around our capacity to do that, our capability to do that, our strength to be able to do that. And not wait and see what it was that was going to happen, because we knew that we would be less good at waiting than we were at endings. So then I think you're letting all of that go, and that feeling of loss, and then you get into that kind of in-between space. So David was busy working with the liquidators probably for the first 8 to 10 weeks of lockdown. You're seeing your resources being sold off at auction, you're walking away from your office, you're putting half of your books to charity shops because you don't have enough space for everything in the house. And all of that kind of in-between stuff where, it doesn't feel as if it's moving, it doesn't feel as if it's going anywhere. And I think what really gave us a sense of purpose in that space was around another decision that we took, which was I would set up as a sole trader and try and continue to do the work that Fiona MacNeil Associates had done, not with existing customers because they had all gone, but in an unknown future, I guess. And also that we decided we've got two neighbours who are more isolated, live on their own, older people, that we would cook for them every Friday night. And that really, honestly, has not been an altruistic kind of action. And the sheer joy of being appreciated every Friday night as you arrived on the doorstep and rung the doorbell with all different kinds of it happened to be fish, it was Fish Friday, all different kinds of fish. And the sheer joy of being appreciated by these two people for, a small kindness has been really astonishing, I think, and impacted both of us a lot. I think also in that time, we were really conscious of supporting Edith in terms of her finding a new job and just understanding that it had been a loss for all of us, but that David and I were still together under the one roof, and she was with her family elsewhere. So you're in that place, and I think there's a lot of doubt about how can you bring the offer that you had in rooms where you were suited and booted and you had lots of creative stuff and a creative imagery and lots of things to play with. How can you bring that offer into a virtual reality? And that kind of the wee voice of self-doubt about, how do I go about doing this? And thinking about previous voices of judgment around the value of learning in a virtual way in comparison to actually being in a room with people. So a lot going on in that kind of period of time. And as I got on to produce business cards, to start to have the strength to let people know that I was moving on in a slightly different capacity, but was still interested in having the conversation. And then I guess my creativity kicked in, and that's the sort of big thing for me that always gets me through. So I come from a creative background. I studied at Glasgow School of Art in the late 70s, early 80s. And my capacity to be creative in my thinking and in planning my future has always been something that's kind of served me well. So I think I felt myself moving into that space. And I'm not saying I didn't hit the wall and go back to endings. I didn't hit the wall and go back to drifting at periods in the next 2 to 3 months, because I absolutely did. And I probably always will, in terms of, that sense of sadness around closing up the business. However, what I think I started to realise was that all of the relationships that I had built, all of the people that we had connected to over all of those years, all of the great work that we had done, that legacy was still in place. And bizarrely, or perhaps the universe provides, depending on your belief system, the phone did ring and people did say, can you do something in this virtual way? And I said, well, yeah, thinking, I hope so. But got on with that, took that risk, moved forward, stepped into that space, got help from people, got support from people, got frustrated, cried, throwed my toys out the pram, got back up again, gave thanks for what I had, and so on and so forth. So it is interesting, and I do feel quite established now in this new world, and the 5 projects that I've had, some of which are ongoing. Some of these have been major projects with organisations like the Ministry of Justice in England and Wales, and some of them have been small projects, for example, with the North Ayrshire Wellbeing and Recovery College, working with people who are on their recovery journey. And all of that work has really enabled me to learn a huge amount, and that has fed me and my kind of hope for the future. So I think the learning has been huge, and I think one of the questions that Lynn asked us to respond to was, what am I proud of? Well, to be honest, I'm just proud that I'm still standing, that I'm still breathing, that I've still got a business. I'm proud of everyone that has helped me to get to where I've got to, and all of that learning will have a massive impact on me moving forward. I can't see myself ever going back to work in an office. I can't see myself ever going back to designing a learning programme that is all in the physical room, because what I've learned is I can be really effective in this environment. And that's not to say that I don't want to be out there suited and booted with my heels on and rocking and rolling and having fun with people. But I think it's a both and now rather than an either or. And so we were also asked to say what advice would we offer, and I'm always slightly wary around advice when you've not been in conversation with people. And also wary, I think, you know, so many of you listening may have been in a much worse place than I was. But I think the thing that kind of has always kept me going is, yeah, the sea might be looking a bit choppy, and there might be a few clouds on the horizon, but tomorrow the sun will come up and the moon will come up, and you know that'll happen. And what has got me to where I've got to in this strange period, both in my personal life, in my community, and with my work, is focusing on what was possible. And I think if there was a piece of advice or a question I would leave you with, then that would be it. So it's a strange thing to come to you in this virtual space, and I'm really grateful to Lynn for the opportunity. And I hope that there's been some wisdom, some empathy, some chord of something in there that you can take from it. And whatever the festive season means to you, then I wish you well. And as people in the small businesses, we need to, you know, hang fire, hold on, and keep the faith. So wishing you the very best for the festive season, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to you.
Hiya, so 2020 has not really been the year that I expected, and I think it's not been the year that any of us expected. I went into 2020 with a really clear plan of where I wanted to be by the end of the year, both personally and with business, and everything was up in the air by March, as I'm sure it was with everybody else. How have I done during the pandemic? Personally, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. I think many people have been through that as well. I would say from a personal perspective, my husband and I, we used to travel a lot, and I used to be in London at least 2 days a week, and I was always traveling around the UK. And it's actually been really, really nice to just slow down and actually spend family time together. And we've been very lucky that there's the 4 of us and my 2 daughters have had this time with us, and we've all been together as a family. And from my perspective, I've seen this as a real gift and a real luck. It's just been really lucky to have that. However, watching the pandemic through their eyes has been really, really tough. And you know the saying, you're only as happy as your saddest child. And they've been up and down, like they've missed out so many opportunities, and they've had to tackle sort of furloughing and the virtual university and virtual school, and it's been a real challenge through their eyes, but they've coped really, really well. They've been really resilient, and it's, I guess, taking time out when somebody is feeling a bit down and just saying, listen, you're allowed to accept that. We know that times are tough, but you are allowed to be sad at times, and you are allowed to be happy at times, and everybody's just sort of trying to muddle the way through. And I think just getting through this has been one of the biggest achievements as well, that resilience. From a business perspective, the whole business model had to pivot. I remember going into the beginning of March with International Women's Day, and we had over almost 100 events across the whole of the UK, everything from road shows to conferences to round tables to dinners organised to really celebrate female entrepreneurship over the course of the whole of March, and really set us up for the rest of the year and start to build those plans. And I think we got to the 6th of March and everything just started dropping off, and it was just the most depressing thing on the planet. All the travel got cancelled, all the venues started to shut down, and everything really started to grind to a halt. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, how on earth are we going to deliver our strategy when we can't actually physically meet people and get involved as much? But it's interesting how necessity is that great driver of innovation, because very quickly within a month, I think we started to pivot. We put all our online training, all our training, face-to-face training that we'd done for years, we made it all digital and online. And then we started to slowly build out events or all around sort of COVID, the impact of COVID. How can we support our female customers? How can we really enable them to have, enable women like yourself to have a voice? And how can we really support? We did a series of roundtables across the whole of the UK, which was phenomenal to see that an entrepreneur in the Highlands has got very, very similar challenges to an entrepreneur in Devon and Cornwall. We're all facing the same thing. What I have seen through business, and I've done this personally as well, is seen a huge amount of learning, a huge amount of women taking time out of their businesses and taking time out of their careers to self-develop and to take that time to build. I've seen so many phenomenal businesses pivot and other businesses, and like really supporting their staff through these challenging times. So I really see that female resilience has come out. We knew that we were resilient, we knew that we were strong, but we've really seen that in 2020. Yes, we've had massive challenges around juggling family and childcare and health and wealth, etc. But I've really seen that resilience really shine through, and that really sort of gives me joy moving into 2021. So moving into 2021, what am I going to do better next year? Well, I see very much next year as first 5 months probably transition still, so we will very much still be on an online basis, but I see slowly starting to build out into the remainder of the year a blend of face-to-face and virtual events and face-to-face and virtual support, and it's just around trying to be adaptive and supportive and as supportive as possible. From a personal perspective in 2021, I really want to start some of those ticking the boxes I've said I would do this year and never quite get round to. For example, every morning I have my alarm clock set for go for a run, and every morning I switch that alarm clock off and think, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. So I have signed up the London Marathon. I was meant to be doing it this year and it got delayed, so I've signed up for October next year. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I have got no excuse to sort of bail on it. So that's one of my life goals that I really want to achieve next year, and build that real health aspect into it, because I've been a bit lazy during lockdown, but I'm going to be kind to myself and not worry about that too much. There's lots of accomplishments that, you know, like as a bank we've done over the last sort of 12 months, and personally as well. And I think just I've mentioned it already, just actually being kind to yourself and getting through this has been good enough for a lot of time for me, and also for the family unit. I've been really proud of the way that as a family we've really come together and really supported each other, and it's been a real sort of time of slowing down and actually being more aware of the community, more aware of your friends, and that health aspect, and just reaching out to people in a slower pace of life. And I think I hope we don't lose that. I am loving working from home. I used to work from home when I wasn't traveling, but I am absolutely loving working from home and not having to hide the fact that I'm working from home, because this is real life, and this is where we are. And from a work-life balance perspective, I've been able to achieve just as much this year as in previous years, and if not, in some respects we've actually had a better reach across the UK and across Scotland and the UK in 2020, after sort of grappling with March's lockdown. So I'm quite proud of the fact that we've reached over 100,000 females across the UK through our events from a standing start, which is pretty good. I'm proud that we've been able to support a lot more female entrepreneurs. I'm proud of the fact that we've been resilient and we have adapted. And I've loved listening to the stories, because the stories, the role models, the case studies around how females have pivoted and got through this has really sort of been a massive support for our customers, and we see that really as a continuation, and we'll hope to build on that into 2021. I've seen this year as a real learning how to learn and how to adapt. From a personal perspective, I did a 10-week course at Glasgow University on change management, which was really, really interesting, and I picked up a lot of techniques and a lot of new learning that I can take forward into 2021. I've also read so many different books, and some of them better than others, but I continue to read and taking some of those learnings into 2021. And I think the biggest learning and the biggest that I'll take into New Year is about adaptability and being able to adapt what I'm doing, what I'm trying to achieve, what the bank's trying to achieve, and how we can do this by collaborating with each other and building on that work. There's no point just doing it all by ourselves. If we collaborate and work with other organisations like Business Women Scotland, I think we can have much more reach and have much more support. I think moving into 2021, the biggest piece of advice that I'm going to give myself is, again, I know it sounds a bit contrite, but be kind to ourselves. You know, like, this isn't the year that we expected, and we have changed a lot and we've adapted a lot in 2020, and I really want to take that learning into 2021. And the advice I would give is, like, reach out to your networks. When we were speaking to our female entrepreneurs up and down the country, one of the biggest areas that they really wanted, a lot of the females were saying the same thing, was around networks. They really are reaching out to their networks, building their networks, collaborating with their networks, and having that local reach and national reach. So it's great to have this world at your oyster, you know, like that you can reach anybody in the world through these networks, through Zoom. But you can have a lot of Zoom fatigue as well. And how do you actually have those fantastic conversations with a woman, a female business owner, or a male business owner quite nearby to you? So we'll be spending a lot of time in 2021 having both national events but also regional reach events where we can start facilitating those conversations and connecting people up. And that's one of the strengths of Business Women Scotland, because across Scotland, you're like, Lynn's created this amazing network that's got so many phenomenal female, both entrepreneurs and females within their careers. And it's about how do you make those connections and how do you really build on those connections to support you in your career and in your business objectives, but also to learn from their examples and learn from their knowledge and building that out. So I would say, for 2021, being open to new opportunities, being open to new experiences, and my motto in life is just say yes. There's a lot of things that I've done recently that I've wanted to say no to over the last few years, and if I track back 6 years ago, if somebody had asked me to speak publicly, and I would have said no. If somebody had asked me to go to a networking event, I would have said, I'd rather not, thank you. But I started to say yes to everything, and I've seen that my confidence is growing. I've seen that my network has grown, and I've seen that, you know, like, if you just say yes, great opportunities often come from them, and you never know what's down the line. So I'm going to carry on with my mantra of just say yes, along with probably getting out there and going for a walk at lunchtime, which I'm useless at, and also not knocking off that alarm clock that says go for a run, but actually just to get out of my bed and actually go for a run, and take the opportunity to meet some fantastic new people next year and see what, if anything, comes of it. So yeah, that's my 2020, my thoughts on 2020, my views on where to go in 2021, and I just wish everybody good luck for next year, and my goodness, let's hope that 2021 is a better year than 2020.
How did I do during the pandemic, both personally and professionally? Personally, if I'm being completely honest, in the early days, the first few months, I struggled. I've got a 2.5-year-old, very lively 2.5-year-old, who didn't subscribe to his mother running a global business. So that was really challenging in that, you know, I'm a person, I'm driven, I like to get up in the morning, I love structure, I like to drive forward. and that certainty and structure was literally thrown out the window. So I learned a lot about myself. I had to adapt, I had to change, and I had to embrace that change. I had to change the hours I worked and how I worked. So yeah, it was a challenge. And also, you know, like I say, I learned a lot about myself by way of having to accept that, you know, I couldn't control everything, and that was okay. And not working the way I would typically have worked was okay also. Business-wise, you know, it's been a great year for SmartPA. Obviously, the spotlight has been put on virtual and home working, which is great and fabulous for us as an organisation. So yes, we've had challenges, we've had changes, but from a business perspective, it's been a good year. What can I do better next year? Well, one of the things I really reconnected with, and one of the positives this year has been exercise and movement. Somebody who's always been passionate about the effects and the clarity and confidence that it gives you. So this year has enabled me to really get back into that space and to drive that forward and get into that flow. So that's certainly something I'll be taking forward into next year. Piece of advice would be gaining absolute crystal clear clarity on your organisational purpose and values, and making sure that absolutely everybody in the organisation, no matter if they're working from home, virtually, no matter where they're working from in the world, or that blended approach, is fully clear on what these things are. You know, your values or your beliefs are, you know, they drive behaviour. They support you to get things done, to drive forward your service, to create your products. So making sure that everybody's absolutely on page with both these things would be one piece of advice, and it's certainly something that supported us this year.